grade 12 and welcome to your crash course in accounting to prepare for paper 2. My name is Millie van Eysen and I'm a teacher at Brackenfell High School. I've compiled a short PowerPoint of key points that I think might help you when you are going to prepare for paper 2. So grab a pen, a pencil, calculator and a piece of paper and let's get going. Before we can actually look at anything, we just need to recap what do you need to study for paper 2. So the content in paper 2 is VAT, creditors and debtors and age analysis. So the creditors and the debtors is the recon. Now please remember, if you were to Google anything about a paper 2, you might find that they actually say bank reconciliation as well. Please remember, in 2021, paper 2, the current year that we are in, you will not be tested on bank reconciliation. So you only study debtors, creditors, and the age analysis. Then there'll be a question on manufacturing, budgets, fixed assets, stock valuations, and then ethics and internal control. That's incorporated in all questions. So your total will be 150 marks and the time you'll have to complete the paper is 2 hours. I've decided to pick 2 specific topics, VAT and manufacturing, as I view them as something that's easy to study and together they make up 40% of the paper. So I hope that I'll be able to help you gain at least 40% in the paper easily before you actually need to study very hard. So, strategies to study for VAT. You need to know what is input VAT and what is output VAT. You need to be able to identify that from different items. You need to also remember VAT is 15%. We are all using old textbooks, and in the textbooks, VAT might still appear as 14%. You need to make sure that when you practice your calculations for paper 2 that you use 15%. Then something that came all the way from grade 10 is our exempt VAT items and zero rated items. You need to know them. They all appear in your grade 12 textbook as well. And these are short 1 mark, 2 mark questions that you can actually know that's 2 marks in the bag, but you'll have to go over them and study them. Then your basic VAT calculations will also be needed. So before we look at a question, I thought, let me put it up. Who would like to go and search in their textbook for VAT exempt items and zero rated items? We are all too lazy. So here they are. Take a screenshot of it with your phone and then you've got it for when you're studying. Just to go over them, VAT exempt items, financial services, rent of private residence, the transport of people by road, and then educational services supplied by the state. Exempt means there is no VAT on there at all, nothing. So what can they do? They can put a financial services transaction in the question and then you just go, you calculate VAT on it and give an answer. And the actual answer is it's exempt, no VAT at all. Zero rated items, it's your normal basic food items, bread, milk, fruit, vegetables, lentils, eggs, canned pilchards, and then export of movable goods, international transport of passengers, and then petrol and diesel. This is now again important. There is VAT on 0%. It's important to realize that the 0% is VAT. They can decide to change the 0% to 2%. They changed our 14% VAT to 15%. So it is changeable, but at the moment it is still 0%. So this is now a typical VAT question. We need to work out the VAT amount payable or receivable. And I've been through a lot of papers. It all looks like this. You will have to be able to identify from the transactions that I've given you what will be output VAT and what will be input VAT. But before we get there, let's just quickly look at the VAT column because that's what we need. We need the VAT amounts. I've got an issue. There's 3 blank entries. So that means we will have to work it out. So they are testing a lot of things in one question. Do you know how to work out the VAT amount? So let's just quickly focus on that and make sure everybody knows how. We're going to start with the drawings by the owner. You will see that in the including VAT amount column, I've got 690,000. In the excluding VAT column, I've got 600 Rand. So the difference between the two is 90 Rand, and that will be my VAT. Excluding VAT plus VAT will give me the amount including VAT. Then for goods bought, I'm here in the excluding column and I need to move forward to get the VAT. How will I do that? I'm going to multiply with 15, divide it by 100, and then I get 90,000 Rand. Then for the last one, I'm in the including VAT column and I need to go back. If I go back, I still want to multiply with 15, but now I'm going to divide with 115. And then I get my answer as 7,500 Rand. So now that I've got all my VAT amounts, I now need to be able to classify all of them into input VAT and output VAT. So let's quickly recap that. Output VAT, I talk about my base transaction. So sales is my base transaction for output VAT. I am actually getting money, and from the money that I get, I need to pay money over to SARS. Debtors allowance stems from sales. Discount allowed stems from sales, and bad debt stems from sales as well. How on earth? Because the sales over here is not just cash sales, it is credit sales. So a debtor developed when I had a credit sale. That will increase output VAT. The moment he returns good, his debt will decrease, the VAT must decrease. The moment I give him discount, then the VAT needs to decrease as well. And then if I am throwing away his debt, it's bad debts, I don't have to pay money over to SARS, so this VAT amount will then decrease as well. SARS is actually very, very honorable and fair when it comes to VAT. If the business doesn't get the money, SARS doesn't get money. So that's why if I need to write off debt as bad debts, SARS needs to decrease their amount that they're getting, because if I'm not getting, they are not getting. Then for input VAT, purchases is the base transaction. So I am buying, money goes out, but I'm getting stock. So if stock comes in, it's input VAT. And I can actually claim the VAT back on the money that I paid. Then the purchases amount is cash purchases as well as credit purchases. From credit purchases, we have return to creditors. We've got discount received from creditors. So they all stem from the credit purchase. So if I'm returning to a creditor, the purchase amount will decrease. Therefore, the VAT amount needs to decrease. My debt will decrease when I receive discount. Therefore, the VAT amount that I can claim back will decrease. And then drawings of stock is the last one. Purchases is when I buy, so the stock came into my business and I can now use it to make money. I claim VAT on that. If the owner takes stock away, it means I cannot use it in my business, and I'm then not allowed to claim that. That's why it will decrease the amount that I can actually claim. And then our calculation there on top, after I've done all of this in a column, my total output minus my total input will either tell me VAT payable or VAT receivable from SARS. So you might have to take a picture of this or write it down for you. This is your study notes, your cheat sheet for when you study that. So now we're back at our column. For output, I have indicated 3 amounts. Sales will be the base transaction. Return from debtors will decrease the output VAT, as well as the discount given to debtors. So I am minusing them and getting a total output VAT amount. Then I do the same for input VAT. Where goods bought, the 90,000 is my base transaction, input VAT. When I return goods to my supplier, I'm going to minus the 7,500. And when the owner takes drawings of stock, then I'm going to minus the 90 as well. And then I get a total. Very important, they don't give you two columns in your answer sheet. They give you a blank block. Please draw it out for yourself and put it in two columns. It makes your life so much easier. And then all I say is output VAT minus input VAT will give me VAT payable. Where did the 2,600 come from? This was in the main question. Above this table, in the main question, they said SARS owes me money. So everything that I'm subtracting over here is what SARS owes me. So this was the starting balance, and they said SARS owes me. If they said above the table there at the top that I owe SARS money, then I would have added it here in the front so that I add it to output, because that's the money that I need to pay over to SARS. So output minus input, and then I minus what they owe me, will give me the amount that I need to pay over to SARS. So if you get a positive answer, it's payable. If you get a negative answer, it's receivable. And it's very important to read the question, because sometimes they want you to indicate after you've gotten the 51,000 that it's either payable or receivable. Right, and that's that. Now we're quickly going to look at manufacturing. This can be anything from 30 to 50 marks and some strategies for when we're going to start studying. Direct materials is an important part of manufacturing, and you need to know the format of the direct materials note. Direct labor is just as important, and they love to give you a whole essay of information relating to direct labor. Write your information down as you read. If you read a 50 and you read 50 workers and they work 1,650 hours at 89 Rand, already write it down for yourself. Otherwise, you're going to forget and it gets confusing later on. Don't forget the contributions. That must be added as part of direct labor. Then when we get to factory overheads, the indirect cost is very important. I personally always forget them. So when I need to do a factory overheads note, I always start with indirect material and indirect labor first before I add anything else. And then it's important to remember advertising and telephone is not part of the factory. I'm going to show you a whole list of others that you need to ignore. That's part of either the admin department or sales and distribution costs. And then obviously manufacturing, there's a production cost statement. And you need to know the format. They leave out blanks. You need to fill it in. Sometimes they even want you to work out an amount as a balancing figure. So work in progress at the end and work in progress at the beginning of the year, and the cost of production of finished goods normally go together. So you'll get two of them, and then one will be a missing figure. And then I'm actually going to take time and help you look at the abridged income statement, which is also part of manufacturing, and there's a specific format to know. Right, so here we've got a typical question on break even. It's not even part of the strategies. Why? Because it's always tested and it's extremely easy. So this is normally either at the start of a manufacturing question or they put it right at the end. So if you feel uneasy, pick break even and start at break even. That's a quick thing to do, and it's easy marks that you've got in your pocket straight away. Then you go back to your production cost statement. So that's why I decided to do it first. So for break even, they gave me a table and I need to use the fixed cost. It's very important, the total fixed cost. After that, we need the selling price per unit as well as the variable cost per unit. That's part of my break-even point calculation. And I only do it for 2018 because that's what they asked. So there's my formula for break-even. Total fixed cost divided by the selling price minus the variable cost. It's also important to know that they refer to the 28 minus the 16 as the contribution, because they sometimes put a question here at the beginning, work out the contribution, then you have to say 28 minus 16, and only then will they say, oh, please work out break even. So it's just something you need to take note of. Then I've got my answer. They are extremely strict. You have to say that it's units. We are so used to accounting being rands and cents, we're dealing with money, that we forget some of the answers can be something else. So if you don't write the units, you don't get the mark for the answer. So that's very important. So now I've worked out my break even. I'm now going to comment on the break even. So they said there should the owner be satisfied with the amount of units manufactured and sold during the year. They don't talk about break even. Another way of phrasing it is to say, please comment on the level of production. No break even in the question, but they want you to comment on break even. So please remember, the comment question of the break even is about the break even. Okay. And for that, we need the amount of units produced and sold. We are going to compare that to the break-even point and write down an answer. You can always, as a last sentence, tell me that with all of this that we wrote down, the production actually decreased as well, as we can see, from 76,000 to 62,000 units. So let's go look at how the comment should look. So I wrote their comment on the level of production just to show you that it means comment on break even. And there's my comment. And I've highlighted the three important things in red. The break even point of 2018 is 61,000 units. You have to comment that, quote the amount, and comparing it to the level of production of 62,000 Rand. I'm commenting that as well. The business is only making a profit on 516 units. So I worked out the difference. The business is not efficient. Why? The production is more than break even. The reason why I'm saying that is they are only making a profit on 516 units. For this big business that produces 62,000 units, the amount of profit is extremely small. So as an owner, I will not be satisfied with these results. Yes, I'm making a profit, I said, but I also said they are only making a profit on a very small amount of units. So quickly, an ethics question in the mix, because that's what they do as well. So Heinrich is the owner, and he wants to now improve his financial results because clearly he's not making a big profit. He's selling breakfast cereal, and he wants to now decrease the amount of cereal in the box with 5%. So he wants to put less cereal in the box, but he still wants to sell it at the same price without telling the public that he decreased the amount of cereal. So he's still going to say it's 100 grams of cereal, but in fact it's actually less. He's not going to indicate that. So this is unethical. It will lead to a decrease in clients if this information comes to light. It's a deliberate decrease in the product, and it's there to increase profits, and it can lead to legal action. The product might also be removed from the shop if it does not correspond with the information on the packaging. We have to be truthful to our clients. It's part of the legislation of our country. Right. So now quickly also just some general theory, and they ask this in every paper. So you are wondering, where's the production cost statement? It's coming. This is our easy marks. This is your cheat sheet again to get quick marks in manufacturing. So you will always have to be able to comment somewhere in the paper about why the unit cost increased or why it decreased. So reasons for the direct material costs increasing or decreasing, I've listed them. You've got a new supplier, they are either cheaper or more expensive. Buying locally might cut down costs, taking advantage of bulks, buying from overseas, and a very common one is wastage. Then for labor costs, you've got good wage increases, might have been negotiated, that's why costs increased, more overtime, transport problems, or even load shedding. They have to work out more overtime or longer, or they are there but they can't work, but you still have to pay them. So load shedding is also a valid answer for general theory. And now we're going to jump into production cost. So I've listed over here your layout. You have to memorize the layout. We start with direct materials, then we get direct labor. And if we add the two together, there's a dark line. That's the answer, prime cost. Then we add factory overheads, and then we get the total manufacturing cost. They normally give you the balance at the beginning of the year, or they give you the one at the end of the year. But either way, those two amounts will be added together, and then you minus the work in progress at the end of the year, which is your closing balance, to get the total cost of production of finished goods. And now I quickly want to show you something. They might not give you these last two amounts, and that's a problem. What they do then is they give you the balance of our finished goods account. They give you the balance at the end of the finished goods account, and they give you cost of sales. Or they give you sales and you have to work back to get cost of sales. And they won't tell you to draw out this account. This is something you learn in grade 11. They will not tell you this, but they give you very clearly all of the information so that you can work out work in progress. In this account, it will be the balancing figure, and that will be entered as the last entry in your production cost statement. So just keep this in mind. If there's no way to go forward, you might have to calculate a finished goods account first. And then the abridged income statement. We've got sales at the top, then minus cost of sales. It's the same cost of sales that we've entered over here. And then we get our gross profit. We minus admin, and we minus sales and distribution. So over there, I've listed the admin costs and the sales and distribution costs. There's other general costs as well, but when you see finance cost, when you see stationery, when you see telephone, it's purely admin. You cannot enter it in your factory overheads account. When you see packaging material, commission, bad debts, vehicle expenses, and advertising, you may only enter it in sales and distribution, which is part of the abridged income statement. Now, a quick typical question. I've picked a small one just to help you with the layout so that you can see where everything goes. So they've given me a list of balances. Admin is there, direct material, direct labor, factory overhead, sales and distribution, an opening balance, no closing balance, a total cost of production of finished goods, and the gross profit for the year. So it's looked like everything's done. Very important to take note of. The total cost of production of finished goods is the last entry in your production cost statement. The words tend to be confusing, so you need to memorize that line because they sometimes give that amount to you and we don't know what to do with it and where to put it. That's the end amount in my production cost statement. So let's look. They've given me three adjustments that I need to look at. They've first say direct material amount is not correct. That one that we've seen over there is not correct. Damaged raw materials has been returned to the supplier and we haven't calculated that as part of direct materials. So what will happen when we do our production cost? We need to subtract it. That's all. Then they say in factory overheads, there's a big rent amount and they've put all of that in factory overheads. But only 3/4 of the expense must be allocated to the factory. The rest must be taken out and split evenly between sales and the office departments. So what are we going to do? We're going to take the 93,000 and times it with a quarter, because a quarter should not be in factory overheads. We're going to minus it from factory overheads, and then we're going to split that quarter amount so that we can put 11,700 in admin and 11,700 in sales and distribution. And then lastly, our factory workers. Factory workers is part of direct labor. So we know our direct labor amount will have to change. So let's look. It looks like it's very tricky, but it is so easy. I need to add the net wage, which I've done there at the beginning. Then I'm going to add the deduction for SARS, and I need to add the deduction of UIF. So the reason why I need to add that as well is the three of them together will be the gross wage. But I don't have the deduction. I do have the contribution. So let's say that's the contribution amount. They say very clearly that the business will contribute, their contribution will be the same as the deduction. That's why I've got 17 Rand over there. And then I just have my final answer. And over there, I just showed you how I entered all of that. I really just did all my calculations. It's important to do it in a bracket so that you can see we get part marks for everything we do. Over here, I've put the total cost of production in as the final answer. So work in progress will basically be my balancing figure. And you just literally add two amounts together, get an answer. Add two, get an answer. Add two, get an answer. Then if we get to, so that's just showing you that the 17 will be the balancing figure. And then just a quick abridged income statement. They don't even put sales and income, cost of sales in there because they've given us the gross profit. So all we had to do was basically add the rent amount that wasn't added in there, but we subtract these two expenses from gross profit to get a net profit. And again, it's important to show everything you do in a bracket. As you can see, we get part marks. Right, that brings me to the end of my presentation. So I'm going to end off by saying, I'm an accountant. What's your superpower? I hope you gain it before you start writing your paper.